Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite. Voices like the park fans dripped in jerseys. Legacy bold, the Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channels and on X. And with 9 games to go, the Mets finish up their homestand for the season against the Washington Nationals, as the Mets are coming off a 2 out of 3 against the San Diego Padres, and now they face one of their division foes from years past. What's up, Chris?
Yeah, what's up? Sorry I'm a little bit late today. I apologize. I apologize to you. That's completely on me, but life gets in the way, and you know what happens. I literally just walked into my house right now. So big series, as are all of these series upcoming for the New York Mets, the last 3 of this season, and it's against an inferior team. I did take a look at the video that you posted yesterday as well. It's one of those things where we cannot see the Mets play down to their competition. I think that is the biggest thing that we have to watch out for in this series. And, Brandon Sproat, first 2 outings of his career, pretty good. Let's see what he's got tonight. And I'm excited, Rob. I'm really excited. I think that this team has the potential to head in the right direction, and they've got that little cushion over the next 9 games, being 2 games up. Can they keep that momentum? Can they keep up the momentum of a big series win against a playoff team and the Padres? That's what we'll see tonight. That's what we're hoping for, and hoping that we're seeing tonight from our New York Mets.
Yeah, and we talked about in the post game yesterday in regards to the Mets getting over that mental hurdle with against the San Diego Padres, and that was a good sign. The offense has looked better, the pitching pretty damn good in that series, especially the bullpen as well. So a lot of good signs going into this national series, but the letdown has been a big factor, and why the Mets are in this position to begin with is because they had too many letdowns over the last couple of months, and you hope this series, that series against the Padres, jumpstarts this team a little bit more to go on a mini run over the next 9 games. And again, will we want, a 6-7 game winning streak? It would be great, right? We're talking about, a sweep of the Nationals, because the Nationals are not very good. The Mets got kind of the pitching matchups ready to go here with Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean to start the first 2 games of the series. And this is huge for the New York Mets. We know that they're, a game and a half from the Arizona Diamondbacks or the Cincinnati Reds, I believe, that won yesterday. So that's the one team that the Mets don't have a tiebreaker against at the moment because of the season series. So again, a couple of bad games in a row, the Mets could be looking up at the playoff spot. But if they play their game and I think if they limit their mistakes, they're going to beat a team like the Nationals. You lose to a team like the Nationals by making too many mistakes. So they got to be focused. They got to play all around well defense. Don't make stupid mistakes on the base path. And you should be able to beat a team like the Washington Nationals that have basically fell over themselves, got their GM fired, got their manager fired. This is a team spiraling out of control, and they probably got their bags packed already for the winter vacation, Chris. And that's what the Mets have to do. They got to pounce early and give them no hope of being spoilers against the New York Mets.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it is 2 games, though, all across the board against the Reds, Giants, and, Diamondbacks that the Mets are up. I think it's 2 games apiece for each of those teams. So, that's something where, again, with 9 games left to play, if you have a 2-game cushion and you're playing the Nationals and Marlins for 6 of the last 9 games, of course, you feel really confident if you're a Mets fan. But we've been kind of conditioned at this point with these kind of scenarios to maybe perhaps think a little bit more strategically and a little bit more pessimistically with some of the things that have transpired in this organization's history. But I do agree with you. We talked about it on the show yesterday, the post game yesterday, that the name of the game for the offense, and it's not just tonight. Like, that's what I don't want Mets fans to get confused. This offense is going to have to carry this team to victories, like, over the next 9 games. They cannot take a day off. It's unfortunate to say, but it's true at the same time. And I did mention yesterday in the post game that I am a little bit more, like a teeny bit more confident in this rotation with some of the starts that we've been seeing outside of a guy like David Peterson who struggled. But I'm talking about like Tong, we've seen from Sproat, McLean, and then the Clay Holmes Mania combo. I'm a little bit more confident that we're getting more competent pitching performances, right, from here on out. But it's no mistake that until the Mets prove that they can win a low scoring game, then the offense is just gonna have to do the dirty work. And that's what they've been needing to do over the past 2 months plus. And they've more often than not, let's be honest, let's give the offense its flowers. They've been up to the task and they've been doing it. That's why if it wasn't for this offense getting it together, Rob, this team is not in a playoff spot right now. And we talked about how miraculous that it is that this team is still in the playoff spot given their poor performance over the past couple of months. The only reason why they are is because this offense looks night and day different than it did in the first half of this season. And I don't want anybody to get it twisted. Like, that's why the Mets are in the playoffs. So they're finally performing up to expectations. They're finally performing like a team that went out there in the offseason and signed Juan Soto, re-signed Pete Alonso, and made a couple more additions. And they're putting runs across the board against a lot of talented pitching. And let's be honest, the Nationals are like, I don't know who's exactly going in this series for the Nationals. I haven't taken a look ahead to tomorrow and the day after, but I'm pretty confident that this offense, given the production that they've been putting up against other pitchers around this league, they shouldn't really have a problem with the Nationals pitching. Like, I'm sorry. It's just not one of those things where we should see a lapse and, a game where the offense can't put up 4, 5, 6 runs. But the name of the game, though, is consistent offense and trying to figure out this pitching. If this pitching, I don't care what they did over the past 2 months, whatever. That's all said and done. If they can find a groove and a rhythm here over the last 9 games going into the playoffs,
Yeah.
like I said yesterday in the postgame, I'll reiterate it. I like the Mets' chances against any team. I like it.
Yeah, we talked about it. If Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean continue to do what they're doing, you only need one more pitcher to step up, and then you're talking about a three guys in a rotation that you can count on or be confident in going into any start, any team you're facing. It doesn't matter. And hopefully it is the Mania Clay Holmes tag team that has worked for the first time and hopefully works again in this series. That would be the most important thing. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the offense. Everybody's killed the offense. A lot of people killed the offense for the majority of the season. Yet, when it mattered the most, the offense did step up in August and early September prior to their 8-game losing streak. They were the ones that kept them afloat when they were scoring 7 runs per ball game, when they were winning games 9-8, when they were scoring 7, 8, 9 runs a game just to win 9-6, 8-6, 7-6. That's what they were doing for basically the majority of the month and a half that they were scoring 7 runs per ball game. And this offense is the key, right? The pitching can be fine, but again, you see what happens when you get even above average pitching. If you get above average pitching, you win the ball game. It's just that simple. Because the offense has been doing their job. Even when they were scoring a little bit of runs, they were still giving their pitchers leads. The pitchers could not hold those leads. You talked about the low-scoring games. That is still the Mets' bugaboo right now. It's their kryptonite. They got to find a way to do it because we talked about it on earlier shows. When you get to the playoffs, don't expect a 7-6 game every time. You might have one anomaly in a series that might be a little crazy. Other than that, it's going to be low scoring games because every team is throwing their best available at any moment from starter to bullpen. Right? There isn't no, oh, let's use the 26th man on the roster in the bullpen to get a couple of outs in the postseason. That's not happening. Your worst pitchers are not going to see any action in big moments in the postseason. And if the Mets do make the postseason, which we all hope they do, you got to figure it out. And it comes with clutch hitting, which the offense has been doing, even if it's been high scoring games, low scoring games, and close games. They have been doing their, I think, the best of the season, getting those clutch hits. And you know what? Alonso is hot. Soto is hot. Lindor's coming on. Vientos has been getting it a little struggle, but he's still been fine. And Brandon Nimmo is looking good, better as well. So that's a great sign over these next handful of games to end this season. We'll see if the offense still continues to do what they were doing. Honestly, I think this San Diego series was one of the better offensive looks that I've seen in a while, only because it was the big hit when they needed it. And when they needed those extra runs or insurance runs, they got them. And I hope that continues because it does suck when you're facing a really good team in the Padres and you go to play the Nationals. The letdown can be the worst type of scenario. I don't believe this team is going to have a letdown. I think they know that it's do or die right now, and they're not going to let the Nationals or anybody else stay in their way, especially teams that should not beat you. You even said you would be disappointed if they take 2 out of 3. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to be overly disappointed, but I'll be a little pissed, like especially if you win the first 2 and you lose the last one, because that always puts a sour taste in your mouth when you win the first 2 and you can't sweep the series and lose that last one going into another series, in this case, the Cubs, and you did take 2 out of 3. That's nice, but still, win the game. Take one game at a time. I think we all do it, and I think the players do it sometimes too. They look ahead and they forget about who they're facing, like a game like today. You got Andrew Alvarez. Does anybody know who he is? I have no idea. I'm not even gonna lie and say I know. I looked at the pitching matchup. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? So you know what I expect the Mets to beat him up. That's what I expect, Chris, and I hope they do that.
Well, remember when back in 2000 or not 2000, yeah, 2023, when the Mets were out of the playoff picture, they were sellers at the deadline. They had nothing to play for. This is the same situation actually that the Nationals are in right now. And there's a guy by the name of Jose Buto that really performed well down the stretch of that season for the New York Mets. He's no longer with the organization, of course, going over in that Tyler Rogers trade. But a guy like Andrew Alvarez, who I don't know much about. I just am looking at his Savant page right now. It seems like he has 5 pitches to throw. He's predominant with 4 of those, and he really likes his 4-seam fastball. He doesn't throw that hard, though, if I'm not mistaken. He's around 91, 92, maybe tops 93. So he mixes in a curveball, slider, changeup, and that is basically the pitch mix for Alvarez. But when you take a look at a team like the Nationals, what makes teams like this so dangerous is that these guys that we've never heard of are playing for their careers. They're playing for their roster spot next year. And I remember that we were saying the same thing about the New York Mets, that the 2023 Mets were playing in September for their roster spots on the 2024 Mets roster. And that would be Mr. Jose Buto and a handful of other guys that transferred over to the 2024 Mets roster. And you know what? I know that Andrew Alvarez, I think he only has like 15, maybe just over 15 innings pitched on this season so far at the major league level for the Nationals. But he's playing for a roster spot on their squad next season. And when you're playing with that kind of chip on your shoulder, if you're pitching with that kind of chip on your shoulder, that is going to bring the best out in you. And so, we've seen it all too many times where the Mets just get absolutely manhandled, for lack of a better term, against these no-name pitchers. But now these pitchers that are pitching for, the Nationals and the Marlins, they've got stuff to play for because they don't care about this season, right? This is their World Series, but in a different lens that they're playing for next season and trying to showcase themselves and make a name for themselves. So I don't want to ever sell any other pitcher short because they clearly got to this point somehow. And maybe let's just say it's maybe far-fetched, but maybe Andrew Alvarez is embarking on a great career starting today where he makes an impression and he's with the Nationals in 2024 and boom, that's a career. That's the next best thing since sliced bread for that organization. So should that be an excuse for the Mets offense? Absolutely not. Go out there and kill this guy. Like this offense is too talented to be, getting a gem thrown against them by a guy named Andrew Alvarez, who we don't know about. But what I will say, though, in terms of just segueing into a different conversation, because we're talking about this on post game yesterday. Hey, man, Kodai Senga didn't look good last night.
No.
Kodai Senga got roughed up. Apparently, there's an SNY article, I just read it while you were talking, where he's going to be facing live batters next week, and his playoff status, quote unquote, is looking murky. That's what the direct quote in the tweet from SNY said. So as much as we were talking about Kodai Senga coming up here and potentially, being a really good bridge for this Mets rotation and having David Peterson go to the bullpen if Senga is able to look competent, I don't know what the confidence level of this Mets organization is right now. We don't know, and there's no guarantee, even if it's a wild card. It's going to be a wild card if the Mets make the playoffs. That's the only thing they can get right now. But, there's no guarantee that he's on the actual roster. He didn't look good. I think he was like 3 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs, something of that nature, where he just didn't look good. And so that throws a wrench in things, unfortunately, for the New York Mets. In a perfect scenario, last night, Kodai Senga went out there, handled business, and looked good in AAA, and he was on the fast track to make a start before season's end. Now, would it shock you if he didn't even get a start before season's end, Rob? Because I feel like there's no way you can have him on the roster, on the postseason roster, without seeing him in MLB game action at least one more time to end this season. I don't know if that's the way you feel, but that's the way I feel. And so that would be a big risk. And unfortunately, last night's performance doesn't help his cause or the Mets' cause. So it's a crazy situation. I don't know what to make of Kodai Senga. Again, this is a guy that is going to be getting money from the New York Mets. He's going to be under contract by default, given that stipulation with the amount of innings he didn't hit it in order to be a free agent. And it just throws a huge curve. It's just like a curveball to the Mets right now and how to figure this out.
Well, I mean, what did the Mets do last year with Kodai Senga when he was out all year? They decided to put him in playoff games, which I don't.
Right?
Idiotic. Yeah, it was stupid.
Yeah.
But what do I expect for them again? To put Kodai Senga in a position like that. That's what they're gonna do. You know why? Because they're gonna leave everything unturned. They're gonna make sure they use every bullet they have, even if you agree or not. They're gonna use it. And they're going to say, well, they're going to say, oh, he's out co-ace. That's why we got to use him. They're going to use him. If he's going to come in relief or he's going to start a game and then somebody piggybacks off of him, that's what's going to happen. We know it's going to be so stupid because we should see McLean, Sproat, Holmes, Manaea combination for a wild card series. We all know Kodai Senga is going to get a start or at least be a part of a start in a game. That's what's going to happen. Because they got their head so far up their asses in the front office that they just want to be right. Just like last year, there was no need for Kodai Senga. You had better pitchers. You had no idea what Kodai Senga was going to give you. And you allowed things to happen because of Kodai Senga. It's stupid. But you know what? The same thing that I keep on saying with David Stearns needs to be right? He told you Kodai Senga was an ace. He told you Sean Manaea was an ace. None of them are. And now you're put in a situation where you're going with a ton of rookies in your rotation. 2 of them has shown a lot of good signs, and then Tong showed finally something his last start. And you wonder, what are they thinking? Because he's going to come up here either in the Chicago series or the Miami series, and he's going to start a game. He is. I told you yesterday. Doesn't matter his numbers. It's what were they looking at to fix? Because we don't know that. We don't know. Like I said, if he feels like his mechanics are good, and because all we know, how do we know Anybody watch that minor league game with Senga? I didn't,
Well,
right?
well, remember Montas, how much he struggled, and he came out against the Braves earlier this season
Yeah.
and threw a really good performance. So it could be the same thing, absolutely.
So again, I don't know if Senga's going to pitch well or not, but it's like this is what if it's what they needed to fix for him or what Kodai Senga wanted to fix. If that's the case, because we know he could have been throwing ghost forks the whole game and not throwing nothing else, because maybe that's the pitch that he feels like needs to get better or whatever it might be. Because minor leagues or not, if you throw the same pitch over and over again, guys are gonna hit it. They are still professionals, so we don't know what he's working on. If they feel like he can come up here, even if they're a bad start in the minors, and throw against the Cubs or the Marlins in big games, then you know what? They're making their own bed. Honestly, if they really need those games, I'm talking like desperately need those games, and you're gonna throw Kodai Senga, why do I believe that they truly want to win? Because they're not doing everything they can. You're hurting your team by putting in a guy that has not pitched well, when you could pitch somebody else who might have a better chance. Like, that's the problem that I had all season. I think they've done a terrible job with putting guys in positions to fail. And then when they do fail, they're like, well, we tried. Like, it's that stupid media interview that he had the other day with Stearns. He is in a different world and not the world we're living in. He's in some other place that he's not realizing what's going on sometimes. I truly believe that. And he gets all the credit last year, but if you're going to give him credit last year, you got to give him all the blame this year, a lot of it. And I just believe you're going to see Kodai Senga in the Cubs series or the Marlins series, and we're going to be scratching our heads to why. Because aren't you supposed to earn it? And unfortunately, the Mets did a poor ass job making the lack of decisions for Kodai Senga, for Shomanai in the bullpen, and now you got such little amount of time to figure things out. You could have done this with Kodai Senga 3 weeks ago, and you would have had a better understanding of what you could use and make them fix maybe 3 starts or 4 starts in the minors, bring them back the final 2 weeks and give them 2 starts so you have a better understanding before the playoffs, not 1 start. That's the problem. It's the indecisiveness and the indecision and the lack of making those moves that now puts them in a scenario where they probably don't have a choice but to have Kodai Senga on this team in the postseason. Like, that's what they're going to do because they screwed it up and they all know it. And they're trying to save face at this point. And the way to save face is saying you tried everything you did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's a lot of like what they could have done, what they should have done, which when we do our season ending review, I will definitely go in on some of the stuff that we should have seen from this front office. But as it pertains to, right now, September 19th, you know, if they feel like Kodai Senga needs a start or needs any sort of appearance in the major leagues like if that's their barometer of judging whether he can be on this postseason roster, you might just have to do it. And it shouldn't be for like 4 or 5 innings, right? He shouldn't be coming up here and throwing that amount of pitches or that many pitches, especially if he's going to give up a certain amount of runs in that outing. But if they feel like they need to see him to make a decision, a rational decision, then so be it. I'd like to think that Kodai Senga has been here a long enough time. I know that he's only entered this league in 2023, but I would like to think that he can still, no matter what the season statistics show and what the minor numbers show, that he can still come up here and perform and help the team out. And so that's just what we have to hope for. It's not a guarantee, Rob. I understand that, but at this point, this is the David Stern show, right? Like this season is going to be. I'm not going to say it is. It has been maybe, but the season's not done just yet. But like you better believe that this season is a mirror reflection on David Stearns and the way that this team is run currently. And so if that results in missing the playoffs, and I'm not saying it's going to, because the Mets have, again, to say it for the 500th time, they have their own destiny, playoff destiny in their own hands right now. Win and you're in. That's the mentality every single game. But when this season is over, whether the Mets don't make the playoffs or whether they win the World Series, it's a reflection of David Stearns. And so we won't know that. We have all like the data that we have right now is the first 100 and what is it, 53 games that the Mets have played, somewhere around there. And so, like, not unfortunately, because the Mets are sitting in the playoff spot right now, but we just don't know because the end result is pretty much how people are going to grade this season. Is that the best barometer to grade a season? Maybe, maybe not, because teams go on runs that shouldn't go on runs, and we've seen it historically. I'm not saying the Mets are going to do that, but they have the opportunity to do so. I would say it's been pretty mediocre over the first 153 games. But when we're talking about this team right now, we just got to wait to the end result and we got to see what happens. Like, I know that there's a lot of holes in this team. They don't look their best right now. There are signs, Rob, and that's the thing for me too, that there are signs that this team can snap out of it on both sides of the ball. More so the pitching or more so the offense because they've already pretty much figured it out. But the pitching, like there are signs. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to write them completely off. And make no mistake about it, that's because of these young guys. Like if these young guys did not come up, yeah, I'm not trusting in Peterson, Manaya, and Clay Holmes in our rotation to take us to the playoffs. There's absolutely no way. But now that we have the young guys, the future is now here. I'm a little bit more confident. And you know what? I think the strategy should be to trust in these young guys. I don't care if it's a do or die situation, a win and in type situation. The hell with the veterans, Rob. They haven't been getting the job done. They haven't been getting the job done. I'm going to say this right now. This is a little bit of a foreshadow, maybe like a forward thinking kind of thing. You can disagree with the take all you want. That's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. I'm going to say this right now. If this season comes down to a win and in scenario where we've seen this before against the Marlins, right? This Marlins organization, if that comes down to it, and if it comes down to it, and one of these rookies is scheduled to start, I don't want to hear any discourse about let's go and throw David Peterson out there. Let's go throw let's throw a veteran instead because these rookies don't know what this kind of game means right now. I don't care. If Jonah Tong is scheduled to start in a do or die game, I'm throwing Jonah Tong. Same thing with Brandon Sproat and obviously Nolan McLean. There's no we get to a certain scenario where the Mets need to win this game desperately, and we're trying to put a veteran up there to try to save this team because they had all season long to try to get this team in the position where they didn't need that do or die game, and they failed. So I would rather go with the rookie and let them either succeed and be the hero or fail, and we live with it until the very next spring training when we're talking about this team again with games coming up. That's just my hot take. And and I'm not saying that's going to happen because if this team wins games that they should, then they shouldn't be in that position. I'm just foreshadowing, and I want to make it very clear right now that if it happens, let the rookie pitch. That's it.
Oh yeah, and I think they will. I mean, let's be honest. Do they really have a choice? They don't. Like, you're not throwing David Peterson in game 162 if you need it.
They could bring up Kodai Senga. If he doesn't make it in the start, they could bring up Kodai Senga and be like, hey, listen, you're throwing the ball in the last game. Like, they could very well do that.
Chris, if they do that on 162 and we need that game, I'm telling you right now, Kodai Senga better pitch the best game of his life because that guy does not even deserve to be on the mound. That's the problem. And you know what? Would I put it past the Mets? I wouldn't, because I think David Stearns is an idiot. I truly believe that. I really think that people gave him all the credit in the world last year, which he deserved. Yet people are still holding on for like whatever nonsense David Stearns is still spilling this year. He did a terrible job. It's his fault. All these three kids are up here. And again, they've proven for the most part that they belong. For the most part, but his plan wasn't that, and that's the problem. Like, what do you do at this point? Like, I would go with the young kids. If you need a Jonah Tong to pitch, or a Brandon Sproat, or Nolan McLean, and yeah, it sucks because you can't use them right away in the postseason. Whatever, you have to make the playoffs. Who cares until you get there? Just like last year, what happened against the Braves? It is what it is. But would I put it past them? I wouldn't. I swear, like if we're in game 162 and we're having a pregame, would anybody be shocked if Kodai Senga is pitching? I wouldn't be. Now, I would think they would have a very short leash because you really don't have a choice. But you know what? It's like Tom Glavine all over again. It's like they let that guy out there to dry, just get killed. And you can't have that happen. But again, we are thinking ahead for sure. But the way Stearns has made decisions this year, I wouldn't put it past him. Last year, I don't think that happens because he did a better job last year. It seemed like they went with the hot hand regardless of the name. This year, they're doing the exact opposite. They keep on telling you, oh, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine. Now Manaea's in a bullpen and Senga's in the minor leagues. So you were lying the whole time. They're not fine. We all see they're not fine. Stop trying to spill that nonsense through the media. But we'll see. Let's hope that game 161 and 162 is not going to matter. Maybe it might matter towards seeding if the Padres kind of, shit the bed a little bit and the Mets play well. Maybe we'll get a chance at that second wild card if we're lucky. But, this Washington series is probably the key to what that Marlins series could be. If you win this national series, honestly, I'm going to say it right now, and this might be a little over the top, but if the Mets sweep this series, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Mets are going to have a 4-game lead in the wild card. I truly believe that because look at the teams facing each other. Look at the teams who they're facing right now, and some of them are matching up against each other that are still trying for a playoff spot or trying for seeding. So they're not playing, but the Padres are playing the White Sox. But other than that, look at the teams they're facing. They're facing teams that are trying to make the playoffs and trying to get up to one of the best records. And that's what's going on right now. You sweep this national series, I'd be shocked if the New York Mets aren't up 4 games. It's not hard to do. We got a 2-game lead right now on 2 of the teams. And I think it was Arizona and the Reds. I truly believe that. This is why Brandon Sproat and McLean's start is so important. You have the pitching matchups. You have the lineup matchup. You got the overall team matchup. This shouldn't be a competition. I know it's baseball. Anything can happen. We should embarrass this team, Chris. I think you agree because you talked about a sweep. This is what's got to happen, right? Don't let Stearns make a decision that he shouldn't be making when it comes to Kodai Senga. That's what I want. I want the team to play so well that David Stearns just watches the game. He doesn't have to make a move because David Stearns always has to make a move just to show that he's working. And Kodai Senga is one of those options. And I want Kodai Senga to pitch in the Marlins series when that game doesn't matter. That's what I want. And then we'll have a better understanding of what Kodai Senga could be on the postseason roster, not hopes and dreams like it was last year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, and I said it yesterday, I'm not backing down from it. If this is not a sweep, it's a disappointment. I'm sorry. Like this is a series where you're supposed to take full command and ride high into Chicago and get the job done. And if you lose one, sorry, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy. Like you had plenty of time to win games you should have won way back when. But all we heard was it's early. This team is trying to find its footing, this, that, and the other. Well, that's fine. And we maybe use those excuses back earlier in the season. I know that we definitely said, I know for a fact that between you and I, we said that these games back in April and May when we were doing these streams that the Mets lost will come back potentially to bite the Mets moving forward. Right. And we said that. And now it has the ability to come back and bite us or it doesn't. But the way that it doesn't is that you sweep this series. So I don't want to hear 2-3 is fine against the Nationals because a sweep is unrealistic. I don't care, and I don't want to hear that. If they lose a game to the Nationals, I'm going to be pissed. Flat out. That's it. This team should expect to sweep them too. That should be the expectation in the clubhouse, by the way.
Yeah, and you know what? This is, again, we talked about this. This is the final home games of the season, right? Who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs, but it's the final home games of the season. A Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's going to be packed at Citi Field, right? It's fan appreciation weekend for the homestand. There's going to be a packed house every game. Like, players talked about it. Cohen talked about it. The fans have showed up. Give them a little bit. Let's get it done. You're home. Like, if it was in Washington, maybe I would say, all right, let's go a little easy on sweeping this team because, again, the Mets don't play great in Washington. They never have. But you're home. No excuses. So, all that nonsense like we were talking about, where the players and Stearns continue to say, we're okay. June comes around, July comes around. We're okay. We know we're good. We're going to be okay. And then slowly but surely, we're getting closer and closer to, 500. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? So, they spilt that nonsense to the media, the players and Stearns, about everything's okay. So, it's going to look really bad on their part if the Mets don't do their job. And again, you always blame the players. Obviously, you blame the players, but they just got to get it done. Like, there's no more room for error. That's the thing. Like, all that lack of urgency for a couple of months is why they're here. And, again, Brandon Sproat on the mound, you do have the pitching matchup. I wouldn't want nobody else on the mound than Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean in the first two games. You got that. You should expect 3 runs or less, 6 innings. That's what I'm expecting from these guys. Maybe even 2 runs or less in 6 innings. That's what I'm expecting. So I'm expecting a good pitching performance, which means the Nationals are not going to score a lot of runs, and it gives the opportunity for the Mets to blow out a team like this. Score a ton of runs, make it a no contest. I want to see the back of the bullpen in this game, in these 3 games. That's what I want. I want to save all our bullpen for the Chicago series. That's what I want. Can it happen? Who the hell knows? But you know what? This team, I'm not going to say shocked me, but I was pleasantly surprised what they did in the Padres series. And I'm glad they played the way they did. I was a little shocked how they played. I know they're desperate, but they should have been that way for a while now. They played like it. They didn't make no excuses. They did their jobs. And you see what happens when you made the other team make mistakes and you limit your mistakes. You beat a team like the Padres. Do the same thing against the Nationals. If you limit the mistakes, you'll win. And with Brandon Sproat on the mound today, I don't see any reason why we should not win this game. Do you like the lineup today, by the way?
I do like the lineup today. I don't care. Yeah, I do like the lineup today a lot, actually.
Yeah, as long as Beatty's in the lineup, that's all I care about.
I mean, did you ask me that because you don't like the lineup?
I'm okay. Like, I don't like the fact when you score 6 runs and your offense played well in this series against the Padres. I don't like flip-flopping Nimmo and Vientos. I'll just leave it the way it was. I know it's not the biggest deal in the world. I hate Nimmo in a cleanup spot, but he performed. So leave him there. Your top 5 guys are your top 5 guys. You can leave it like that. It shouldn't be that much of an issue. I don't like Beatty batting 8th, but I'm assuming it's matchup reasons, and that's why he's further down the order. That's why, look, Marte has been damn good. All the things that we talked about Marte, I've been a big proponent of Marte, but this guy, I mean, he's an ageless wonder. This guy hits the ball. Like, I want Marte in the lineup almost every day. The rest of the year, I want him in there every day. The guy is clutch as hell. And you know what? I would not be shocked if Starlin Marte is in the lineup in game 1 of a postseason series. And I love the fact that he's in these games because he just does his job. He doesn't try to be anything fancy. He's not what he used to be a couple of years ago, but he still gets the job done. You know what? When he turns on a ball, you see what he does, knocking that ball over the left field wall. He's still got enough. So it's nice to see.
Well, you got to pick though, Marte or Mullins, because I think you said both of those guys are going to be appearing in game 1 of a playoff set. And they both cannot be in the lineup, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you put
They
Mullins,
could, but that means probably Vientos is sitting, and I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, why? Because Siri's playing center field right now, so like you could just throw Mullins in there and then you're set, right?
Well, I don't.
Because Jeff McNeil's not in the lineup today, so You
That's
know,
what I'm saying, because
yeah,
Jeff's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? It's not possible. It's not possible.
yeah, and I do apologize. Beatty's playing second base, not third base. I apologize for that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's matchup purposes, right? That's the only thing I can think of. Like, you got to play Mart. Like, if Marte is hot, you have to play him. I'm sorry, like, you know, Vientos has shown signs, but he's cooled off a tad. He wasn't
Oh,
as
that
red hot as he was, 2 weeks ago. So you have to make that decision. Do you have the hopes of Vientos finding it? Let's say it's in the postseason, because of what he did last year. Does he get that start right away and see what he does? Because you can't sit a red hot Starlin Marte and leave Mullins in there, or put somebody, or take Marte out who is hot and who is clutch. Marte was one of our better hitters in the postseason last year. So I mean, look, it's a tough decision, and it's going to be up to Mendoza. But you know what? Whoever's the hot hand, you put in. Whoever has been hot leading up to the playoffs, you play them. The hell with the matchups. Like, I don't care about matchups. Like, I don't want to see Cedric Mullins in there because he's a lefty against a righty. If you got to play Jose Siri or play McNeil in center field, I know I said I didn't want that, but if you want to get those extra bats in the lineup, you got to do that, because again, every run's going to count. You're gonna have to do that. I don't like the fact that McNeil is an out of position center fielder, but again, do you want to leave Marte out of the lineup? Do you want to leave Vientos out of the lineup and McNeil? I don't think you could do that. So, with this
that was my
lineup, okay.
that was my point the other day, is that like Jeff McNeil in center field is not the most ideal, but I'd almost rather have that happen than the alternative, because you want to play a little bit better of defense and play matchups lefty righty and have Mullins over there. Mullins looked actually damn good in center field, not gonna lie, defensively. He tracked down a couple of balls that were kind of in the gap, and they were long runs against the Padres in that game 3. But Jeff McNeil in center field in the playoffs is something that I don't think that they will do, because this is a David Stearns team, but that won't be out of the question, I think. But yeah, again, you have to, like, that's and honestly, I'm just hoping that instead of Mullins, we have Tyrone Taylor by that point, but I don't really have an update. I don't think we have an update on Tyrone Taylor, do we? Because it's a hamstring, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, those
is
are
it a
those
hamstring
are
or was it a?
pretty.
Yeah, you might be right. It might have been a
I
hamstring
think it was a
or calf.
hamstring, and
Was
those
it
are
a
hard to
hamstring?
recover from.
I don't know what the heck it was. It was some type
Let
of
me see
strain.
what it was. I think
But
because if it's a hamstring, those
yeah,
are
that's
tough.
that's tough. But you know what? Look, if Taylor comes back, you play Taylor in center field, and somebody's got to sit. I mean, most likely it would be Marte. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but again, it's hard to sit McNeil, and it's hard to sit Vientos if it's a possible playoff scenario, because of what Vientos showed last year. Which I don't like going back to last year, but it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But
It is
yeah,
hamstring. It's a left hamstring strain for Tyrone Taylor. I just looked it up.
yeah, that sucks. And
So,
he was red hot too with the bat before he
oh
got
yeah,
hurt.
he was doing really well. There was doing really well.
No, well,
The
so
last two things that I wanted to say. Oh, go
I'm
ahead, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you real quick. So if Tyron Taylor does come back before the postseason, and let's say he comes back 3 or 4 games before the postseason, but he doesn't hit, what do you do? Do you stick with that defense in center field, or you do the scenario like we said, you go with the bats and get a little bit lesser defense, because we've seen defense hurt this team numerous times. You don't want that in the playoffs because there's no turning back when that happens.
Are you asking me if it's going to be Tyrone Taylor or Jeff McNeil?
Yeah, I mean, just your opinion, just based on if Taylor's not hitting.
I think game 1 you have to go. I think game 1 you have to go with Tyrone Taylor in center field, no matter
I
what,
agree.
if he's hitting or not. I think you have to. And then depending on the results of game 1, then maybe perhaps if the offense didn't look quite up to par, maybe you kind of gamble out there with McNeil. I don't have a problem with them gambling with McNeil in center field. I did way back when, but I've kind of just like turned that to the side. And I'm like, if McNeil for me, he like as an infielder, you're gonna make a mistake out there. It's inevitable. That's fine. But I would just hope that he limits the mistakes. Maybe we don't see a mistake out of him defensively, and he provides a clutch hit or two for us, just like he did in game one in the first inning of the Padres series. That's exactly why you want Jeff McNeil's bat in the lineup, because you had a very big situation and a chance to score a lot of runs. A double play happens that you didn't expect, and then you get 2-out RBI production from Jeff McNeil. That's why you have him in the lineup. So I think game one will definitely be Tyrone Taylor no matter what. If he is healthy, again, hamstrings are very hard to come back from in an adequate amount of time. But if that's the case, I think it's Tyrone Taylor and then Jeff McNeil. I think that's what would be my preference. I'm not saying the Mets are going to do it. That's my preference, though.
Yeah, like I said, it I guess it depends on what you're looking for at that point when we get to that point. Like say if Taylor was ready today, would you put him in center field today? Probably. He'd probably be the center fielder because Siri doesn't bring any offense at all. It's just I think you got to be sound defensively, especially against a team like the Nationals. I talked about limit the mistakes. You can't have Jeff McNeil misjudging balls in center field, and you just can't do that. Now those mistakes can cost you games in any scenario, in any game against any team. But against a team like the Nationals, I think you got to be defensively sound. Because, again, you make the mistakes, you're going to get burned. So, again, the lineup is fine today. I don't care. I think they're really trying to get Siri going because I think because the power that he doesn't show a ton of power. But the reason why they got him and Stearns traded for him, and we both liked that trade when they made it because we thought right away Siri was going to be the starting center fielder because he shows 17 to 20 home run power and he has speed and he has elite defense. We've seen none of that. Now, he did get hurt. And we all remember game one in Houston, what he did on the base path. And, that speed can kill. But he did get hurt not too long after. It was like a month later, not even. So he does provide a little bit of power. And I do think the Mets want to see Siri get going. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Siri play a little bit more over Mullins over the next couple of days to get him going with the bat a little bit because we know Stearns likes him. He traded for him. We liked him when they got him. But again, that's another thing. Would Siri be on the roster come postseason time? You can't have 3 center fielders on the postseason roster. It doesn't make sense. Especially when you gotta, again, depending on matchups when it comes to how you're going to set up your roster for a certain team. But that's why I think
Siri's making the postseason roster, to be honest. I don't think he's going to be there.
I don't think right now, no. I think you have to go to, unless Tyrone Taylor is not healthy, then Siri will be on the roster.
Correct.
So,
well, you know what though, Rob? Of all three of the center fielders, I see a lot of people up early in the chat here, complaining about Siri being in the lineup. Of all three of these center fielders and the upside with their bat, I think Tyrone Taylor provides you the most upside, maybe not with the power, but just the ability to be a true 9-hole hitter and, swipe some bases and play the best defense. I think that he's the best bet. But what I will say, though, is that these bats are not like a Jeff McNeil, like if he's on top of his game changer for the lineup. Like that's the difference here. So, just because Jose Siri is getting the start today, I don't give a damn, to be honest, because the rest of this lineup is good enough to get over the fact that Jose Siri's in this lineup. It shouldn't be the make or break with how talented these guys are supposed to be, by the way. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't I look at this lineup and I don't bat an eye that I see Jose Siri. I do not care. I could not care less. Like the guys from 1 through 8 should be able to put up runs in this type of series, no matter what Jose Siri does. So that's just the bottom line. I wouldn't care if Mullins is in the lineup. Wouldn't care if Tyrone Taylor. You put any of those 3 center fielders in this type of lineup, they should not be the difference. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, exactly. If we're talking about Jose Siri being the problem for this offense, then guess who's not doing their job? 1 through 8. That's that we talked about. How long we talked about this all season? When 1 through 4 wasn't doing their jobs.
We talked about this.
Yeah, when 1 through 4 or 1 through 5 wasn't doing their jobs, who was everybody complaining about? 6, 7, 8, 9. You can't worry about. That's the problem. Your top guys need to do the job. If your top guys are not doing the job, your lower part of the batting order comes through maybe once a week, maybe once a week. That is when they help you win a game every now and then, where they come alive offensively. You can't count on that. They're not an offensive juggernaut at the bottom of the order. Nobody has that. You got to have the top guys doing their job. So again, if we're talking about Siri tomorrow, being 0 for 4 with leaving 5-6 men left on base, are we ultimately going to blame Siri? Yeah, you're going to give him blame, but ultimately the other guys in front of them didn't come through, and that's why Siri's in that spot. You don't want Siri in that spot right now, the way he hasn't shown any offense. Other guys got to come through, Alvarez, Beatty. And I do like that Beatty's in front of Siri, by the way. I think that helps a little bit. So hopefully Beatty comes through or Alvarez comes through before Siri even gets to the plate with runners on base. So any final words, Chris, and your score prediction? We don't do score predictions very often on the show, but let's do score predictions, and maybe we'll do that.
Should we do it? We don't have a good history of doing it.
We don't. I think that's why we stopped it in the first place.
That's why we stopped it.
All right, any final
we'll
thoughts?
Do it. I know what. I don't want to. You know what? Maybe I'm a little bit too superstitious to do.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm all on board then. Final thoughts.
I do think superstitions are kind of dumb sometimes, but like in this scenario, I'm like, all right, maybe I don't want to like get the bad mojo going. My final thought is that I think the offense is fine. Again, we'll reiterate that point. We've been saying it, but this is a huge opportunity for Brandon Sproat. This is a huge opportunity for any starting pitcher that steps up. Screw starting pitching. Any pitcher, regardless, starter or bullpen, that steps onto the mound for the New York Mets. If, regardless of what happened in the rest of the season leading up until this point, you have an opportunity to showcase yourself that you should be in the circle of trust for David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza come playoff time. And this is what these guys, when we talk about what Andrew Alvarez and the Nationals are playing for, the Mets are kind of playing for something similar when you're talking about on an individual basis, right? They're all playing for the win because the Mets need to win. But on an individual basis, they're playing to win that entrustment from David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza. And that is a chip on each individual shoulder as well. And hopefully that carries them into good performances. So huge third start for Brandon Sproat. I think that's probably the biggest headline of this game for me is Brandon Sproat and how he holds up. Hopefully he's sharp and hopefully he's able to replicate what he's done in the first two outings. And if he gives up, I think one of the outings he went scoreless 6 innings, and the other one he's gave up 3 earned runs. If he gives up 3 earned runs over 6 innings, this offense should be able to put up 4+ to win the ball game. So at that point, the difference would be the bullpen, and hopefully this bullpen is also on its way to figuring stuff out, because game 3 against the Padres, that was one of the better games that we've seen from this bullpen all in all. So go out there, get a win. Nick and I got you all covered for the post-game stream today on the channel. If you all were wondering, we are doing a post-game. See you all after the game. Let's go, Mets.
There you go, guys. Well said. 100% agree with what Chris said there. So make sure you tune into Nick and Chris on the post-game show. Guys, let's get a W. Hopefully you're talking about a W on the post-game today, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channels and on X. Enjoy the game, guys. Let's go, Mets. And don't miss that post game later tonight, guys. Have a good night.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods.